Hi guys, I know I'm not back yet. Thank you for being patient with me. We're gonna do this lesson remotely, I guess. I'm recording this lesson for you guys. So right now you should be working on your warm up. You know, you have about 10 minutes to do it as normal. So I'd like to go ahead and ask whoever our sub is today. So if you go ahead and start the timer for 10 minutes. And then every once in a while during the video, I'll ask you to pause it so they can do their work, their portion of the work, and then we'll come back on. So we're going to go ahead and pause it for about 10 minutes while they do the warm up, and then we'll go ahead and start the video back. If I'm going too fast, I'm so sorry. Just please pay attention. I'm going to try and answer all the questions that you guys would have. So go ahead, start your warm up, and I'll talk to you in a few. Bye. Okay, guys, go ahead and get out your notes. We should be on page 15. Okay, so we are on page 15 today. We're going to look at linear graphs. So we're still graphing linearly. I'll wait a second while you guys get out your notes. So go ahead and do that, please. Page 15. So we're on unit 1.5. Also, just as a FYI, next class period, we will have a checkpoint over 1.3, 1.4, and 1.5. So when you come back next week, we will have a checkpoint. So be prepared for that. So our essential question today is, how do equations and graphs of horizontal and vertical lines differ from other lines? So basically today we're really only talking about horizontal and vertical lines. Super easy. So here we go. Let's go ahead and take care of this. A horizontal line is a straight line that is mapped from left to right. So horizontal lines go from left to right, and it's parallel to the x-axis in the plane coordinate system. So this is my x-axis, right? Here's my x-axis, and it's parallel. Here's my line. It's parallel to the x-axis. The equation is always written as, this is the important part, y equals some number. I want to kind of blow this up a little bit. Y equals some number. That number is the point that it crosses the y-axis at. So this one crosses the y-axis at -2. So my equation is y equals -2 because it's going through the y-axis. So it's going to be y equals -2. Okay? So that's how a horizontal line equation works. So let's go ahead and talk about vertical line, right? A vertical line is a straight line that is mapped from top to bottom. So this one goes up and down, right? So top to bottom, and it's parallel to the y-axis in the plane coordinate system. And its equation, as I zoom in here, is x equals some number, where my question mark is just any number. So again, on my example here, here's my point that it crosses the x-axis at, and it is x equals the point that it crosses at. In this case is 3, which is already written there, but I just wrote it again. Now let's talk about two other things for these two types of equations, or one other thing, and that's slope. Remember, we just got done kind of talking about slope on the last one. So let's talk about the slope on these two. The slope for my horizontal line, as you can see, this line is totally completely flat, right? So my slope for this line, well, for all horizontal lines, it doesn't matter, is always 0. Okay, so I have a 0 slope there. And the slope for all vertical lines, because my vertical line is up and down, I mean, it's so steep, right? It's so steep that it has there's no way you could climb it. Or sometimes I think I say, what is the analogy I kind of use? that if you're skiing and you ski off the slope, the slope of that is so steep you become undefined because it's straight up and down and you're just going to crash, right? So that's, you can kind of think of it that way. I don't know. I'm not a skier, so kind of works that way. So undefined. Okay, always all vertical lines are undefined. So if we're asking for slope for horizontal lines, always 0. Slope for vertical lines, always undefined. And unfortunately, that doesn't go, this is one of those rules where it doesn't work alphabetically because 0 and undefined are not alphabetical. So that doesn't work very well. You just kind of have to remember if it's flat, it's 0. If it's straight up and down, it's undefined. So I hope that kind of helps a little bit. And then from last lesson, we learned about the 4 types of slope. Does anyone remember what those are? You can even look back in your notes if you want to. Just tell me what the 4 types of slope are. So we have 2 of them. We just talked about them. That would be 0 and undefined. Great. Those are 2. What are my other 2 types of slope? Positive, yep, positive, if I can spell, and negative. Great, awesome. Good job, you guys. So those are 4 types of slope. Pretty easy. Now let's go on to the next thing. It says, I can find the slope of horizontal and vertical lines. For each equation, find the slope. Now, they may or may not be horizontal or vertical. It could be a regular slanted line where it would have a slope. So we have to just figure it out, decide what my slope is. So here we go. Let's do this. Let's go over here to number 1. And how do I find the slope? No matter what, I want to solve for, how am I going to do this? I guess I should write that on here, huh? I'm going to solve for y. Or if there's no y, then solve for x. Okay, so I'm going to solve for I'm going to look and see if there's a y. Yes, there's a y in this equation. So I'm going to solve for it. Okay, so I got to get the y by itself. So I'm going to add 3x to both sides. And I get 4y equals 9. Divide by 4. And y equals 9/4. So what's my slope? This is y equals, so what type of line is it? There's no x, so is it going to be horizontal or vertical? It's going through the y-axis, so it's horizontal. Good. So that means my slope is 0. Awesome. Okay, good job, you guys. So let's go to number 2 here. We're going to do the same thing. And let's see. Oh, it looks like I only have an x. It looks like I only have an x this time. So we're going to just solve for that x, just like I would if I was solving for the equation. So let's see. I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. And then I'm going to add 2. So I get, what do I get? 3x equals -5. And then divide by 3. And x is going to equal -5/3. Awesome. So now this is x. So it's going through the x-axis, which means my slope is good. Undefined. Okay, awesome. Undefined. Good job. Okay, and then let's go to the last one over here. Again, I have an x and a y. So I'm going to solve for y. Oh, I do want to say this. If I'm going too fast, I'm so sorry. This is recorded. It's in your, it's in the module. I posted it in the module so you can go back and look at it and kind complete your notes or whatever you need to do to help yourself out. But I have posted it in the module. So I just wanted to point that out really quick before we went on. Because I know sometimes when I'm talking to myself and I don't have you guys in front of me, I tend to sometimes go a little fast, and I do apologize for that. So here we go. I'm solving for y. Subtract 2x. Subtract 2x. And I've got 3y equals negative 2x minus 15. My y is not by itself, so I've got to divide by 3 everywhere. And I've got y equals negative 2/3 x minus 5. Great. So what's my slope? Negative 2/3. Great. Remember, slope is the number with x. So my slope is negative 2/3. Perfect. Good job. Now you guys go ahead and do it. So we're going to go ahead and have, if you could go ahead and pause the video for maybe 4 to 5 minutes until everyone seems to be done, and then we can start it up and have the answers there for them. So if you go ahead and pause the video for about 4, maybe 5 minutes, and then we will have the answers here for them. Okay, thank you guys. Go ahead and get those done. Thanks. Okay, guys, so I've got x equals negative 17, which means I'm going to have a what type of graph? Yeah, vertical. Good. So that means my slope is undefined. Great. Good job. Okay. So let's go on to number B. Sorry, stop the recording before I finish talking. Let's go on to number B. Okay, so once again, I have a vertical line because it goes through the x-axis. So my slope again is undefined. Great. Good job, you guys. So we have 2 where the slope's undefined. It's great. That's fine. So let's go ahead and go on to number C. Okay, so what we have now is y equals 39/5. So that is a horizontal line. Great. So my slope for a horizontal line is 0. Good. Good job, you guys. So that's how we're going to find that here. So let's go ahead and go to the second page. Good job. Now we're going to graph horizontal or vertical lines, okay? So we're just going to graph them. So first, in order to graph them, I have to get whatever variable I have to get that alone. So in this case, in number 1, I have got an x. So I want to get the x by itself, okay? So in order to get the x by itself, I'm going to divide by 3. Awesome. So this is x equals negative 5. So when I'm graphing, this is sometimes where people mess up. So I know I'm going to go through the x-axis, okay, because it says x equals. So I'm going to go to x equals negative 5, okay? And no matter what this says, no matter what, y is, because we don't know what y is, x will always be negative 5. So that means if y is 6, x is negative 5. If y is negative 4, x is negative 5. So that means that this is what my line is going to look like. X will always be negative 5. Therefore, it's a vertical line. Okay? Hope that helps a little bit. Pretty easy to graph because it's just a straight line up and down. These are going to be pretty easy. It's either a straight line up and down or side to side. So no slants. I hope. I don't think I put any in there. So let's go ahead and go to number 2. What variable do I have? What variable is f of x? So just as a little side note up here, f of x is another way to write y. So f of x just means y. It says my function at x. that's just y. So I can rewrite this equation saying negative 3 minus y equals 2. So now I have either an x or y. I kind of know what I'm talking about. If it's g of x, and it could be g of x, h of x, m of x, anything of x just means, if I can spell, just means y. So anything like that just means y. That's my function y. That's my y value. So I just want to kind of explain that since I'm not there. I hope that helps. So anytime you see that, that just means that's my y value. Okay, so I need to solve for y. So I'm going to subtract 3. And I get negative y equals -1. Now my question is my y alone? Is it by itself? No, it's not by itself because it's got a, I could rewrite this as -1y, right? Equals -1. So it's not by itself because it has a negative with it. So what I need to do is divide by -1. So y is going to equal +1. And again, I'm going to go to, this says y equals, so I'm going to go on my y-axis to 1. And it means, just kind of like before, this means, since I don't have an x, it means that no matter what x is, no matter what x is, y will always be 1. So if x is 8, y is 1. Good. If x is -1, y is 1. Okay, always 1. So that means my graph is going to look like this. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to pause it for there's like 2 questions, right? So maybe 3 minutes, maybe 2 to 3 minutes. Just go ahead and decide how long that you think you need to pause this for, and then we'll go ahead and start. So go ahead and graph these 2. Okay, guys, so for A, this is what A looks like. It's y equals -3. I didn't have to solve for anything because it was already done. So there we go. I just replaced g of x with y. Remember, we had that conversation before that if it's g of x, anything of x is just y. So that's it on A. So let's go ahead and move to B. Okay, so when I solved the equation for x, I got x equals 5. It means it goes through the x-axis at 5, and it's just a vertical line. And there we go. That's it, done. Okay, pretty, that's it on that one. So let's go ahead and go to the next section and see what we're going to talk about. Oh, okay, so we're going to graph using the x and y intercepts. So this is the last thing we're going to do graph-wise. So I can graph a linear function using the x and y intercepts. So how do I find the x-intercept? So let's, I want to kind of have this graph up here for a second. If this is my x-intercept right here, what's the location of that point? The location of that point is 6, 0. Is that correct? So anywhere on the y-intercept, anywhere on the x-axis, y is always 0. So to find my x-intercept, which is what I'm looking for right now, to find this x-intercept, what I do, my x-intercept is going to be some number and then 0. So I set y equal to 0 and solve for x. Okay? Same thing if I want to talk about the y-intercept. So if this is my y-intercept, what's the location of that point? Well, the location of that point is 0, -6. Okay, so if I'm going to find my y-intercept, again, this is my y-intercept, if I write it as an ordered pair, would be 0, some number, right? So what that says is I'm going to set x equal to 0 because x is 0, and then solve for y. Okay, pretty easy. And yes, if it asked me to solve graph by finding the intercepts, because I think on your homework it actually asked you what the intercepts are, and then you have to graph it that way. So I just want to point that out on the homework. It asks what the intercepts are, so you do have to state what they are and find out what the x and y intercepts are. I just want to say that. So let's go ahead, and I think on the next page we'll graph it that way. Okay, so here we go. So it says I can graph linear functions using the x and y intercepts. So I'm going to find the intercepts. So here we go. I'm going to find my x-intercept. So to find my x-intercept is some point 0. So I'm going to set y equal to 0. So wherever there's a y, I'm going to put a 0. So I've got 2x. How do I want to do this? Okay, I want to do 2x minus 3 times 0 equals negative 15. Oh, this is lovely. Okay, so then I get 2x equals negative 15. Divide by 2, and x is going to equal negative 7.5. Okay, so negative 7.5. And then to find my y-intercept, I know that's going to be 0 and then some number, right? Because I found that number right here. Whatever number is going to go there. I'm going to set x equal to 0 because it says x is 0. So I'll go 2 times 0 minus 3y equals negative 15. So negative 3y equals negative 15. Divide by negative 3. And y equals 5. So here's my two intercepts. So now, in order to graph a line, I only need 2 points. So I've got my x-intercept and my y-intercept. I should be able to draw a line, semi-straight line, between those 2 points. So my question to you guys is, where is negative 7.5? Do you guys know where that is? It's on my x-axis, right? And it's between 7 and 8. That's all I have to know. It's just between 7 and 8. So it's going to be right there, okay? And then 0, 5 is there. And then you draw a line. Oops. Try and draw a straight line that's not as curved as mine. But that's it. Done. Pause for a second before we go to the next problem. Please, if you have questions, ask somebody around you. Hopefully you can figure out what we're doing. And you can always send me a message. I've been trying to get back to people who've been sending me messages in Canvas. So I've been trying to do that. So let's go ahead and go to number 2. Okay, so we're doing the same thing. I'm graphing by finding the intercepts. So first I want to find and it doesn't matter which one you find first. I don't care if you find your x or your y, it doesn't matter. So I usually just always start with x. So I'm going to find my x-intercept first. So that means it's some point and then 0, right? So I really want to find the point that goes here. Right? So that's what I'm looking for. So my my y is going to be 0. So I'm going to do negative 3x plus 5 times 0 equals negative 15. So I get negative 3x equals negative 15. Divide by negative 3. So x is going to equal positive 5. So this should be positive 5. Beautiful. And now, okay, is everyone okay so far? Great. Now we're going to find our y-intercept. So that means x is 0, and I need to find my y value right here, whatever's going to go there. So x is going to be 0. So I'm going to do the same thing that I just got done doing, only instead of replacing the replacing the y, I'm going to replace the x. So I've got negative 3 times 0 plus 5 times y equals negative 15. So 5y equals negative 15. Divide by 5. And y is going to equal negative 3. So those are my 2 points. So if I'm going to look on my graph here, my x-intercept is 5, 0. And my y-intercept is negative 3, 0. And then I'm going to attempt to draw a straight line between the 2 points. There you go. Okay. And I know you'll need a little bit more time to do these ones. So I think there's still 3 problems here. So go ahead and maybe give them 6, 7, 2 minutes per problem should be enough. 7 to 8 minutes probably to do this. So go ahead and pause for them and give them a few minutes to get that going. Thank you. Okay, guys, so for A, I got my y-intercepts to be my x-intercept to be 3, 0, and my y-intercept to be 0, negative 6. And so this should be what we get. Now, please, I'm not there, so if I make a mistake, please just correct me. You guys can debate it out. Let me know if I did it wrong, and help each other out. Because I make mistakes. Not perfect. But there we go. That should be it for A. Let's go ahead and move on to B. Okay, guys, so for B, I got an x-intercept at negative 5 and a y-intercept at 3. So there we go. I think I did all these with positive slope. Yes, you can still get negative slope with these. It's okay with these problems. So one more to go. C, we're going to do exactly the same thing. So I'll see you in a few seconds. Okay, here we go. So I want to find the x-intercept. So I've got 3x plus 2y. Oops, not 2y. Sorry. See? 3x plus 2 times 0, negative 18. 3x equals negative 18. X is going to equal negative 6. Negative 6. And then we want our y-intercept. So we've got, what do we have? 3 times 0. Y equals negative 18. Negative 18. Divide by 2. Y equals 9. Sorry, you guys, I made a mistake. You guys got to see me actually do that one, so it's okay. It's totally cool. So x-intercept is negative 6. Y-intercept is negative 1. I know there's not a negative 9 on there. It's okay. It's about there. So we're going to approximate. Pretend my line is straight. So there we go on that. Not too bad, right? Finding by intercept. So you'll have some homework that has that on there. Okay, awesome. So let's go to the next thing and our last thing is really just going to talk about how do I tell just from an equation if it's linear or not. So how do I tell if it's linear? Well, there's a couple different forms it can be in if it's linear, and we've talked about them, right? We've talked about them. So standard form for a linear equation, I guess we really haven't defined that standard form, and that's probably the only one we haven't defined, would be ax plus by equals c, right? Notice there's just an x and a y, no variables. It's just, and it doesn't matter what side of the equation it's on, it's just there. I'm sorry, no variables. That is not what I meant. No exponents. There we go. No exponents. Okay. Another form is slope-intercept form, right? So it could be y equals mx plus b, right? That's correct. Y equals some number or x equals some number. I just want to point out in all of these, the variables have no exponents. There's no exponents. We're not dividing by a variable. We're not doing anything weird to the variable like a square root or what else could we do to it? Stuff you haven't learned yet, like logarithms or anything like that. We're not doing anything weird to it. It's just an x or just a y. So in that case, it's those are just linear. What would not be linear? We kind of talked about it. What if I had y equals x squared or x cubed or y equals x to the 1/2 or x to the -1 or anything like that, anything with some weird exponent, not linear. Okay. If I'm doing anything weird to my exponent, like a square root or y equals log base something, log base, let's say 2 to the x power, that's something we haven't even learned yet, not linear. Anything like that's not linear. So those would not be linear. So we want to be able to, and the last one that would not be linear would be y equals, like, let's just say some number. Let's say 10 over x. If I'm dividing by my variable, it's not linear. Okay, any of these, not linear. Any of this, anything where we can just solve for y and get it by itself and we just have an x by itself, linear. Okay, and that's the last thing we're really going to do is just state whether these equations are linear or not. So sometimes we might have to solve for them or get y by itself to see if we can, to see if it's linear or not. So let's look at number 1. So I think probably the easiest, if most of our definitions up here, as I scroll back and forth, most of our definitions that I've given you are y equals something, right? So let's try and get the variables by itself, or the y by itself. Let's try and get that by itself, and then let's look at it. So let's look at number 1. Let's try and get the y by itself and see what we get. So the first thing I have to do is, according to PEMDAS, right? if I can spell it, PEMDAS is my parentheses, right? So I have to take care of my parentheses. So that means I'm going to distribute. Good. So I get 3y equals 14x minus 28. Yes, good. Is my y by itself? No, it's not. So I do have to get rid of the 3. And how am I going to do that? Divide. Very good. So I've got y equals 14 thirds x minus 28 thirds. So glad we don't have to graph that. So is it linear or not? So the y is by itself. Good. Is the x by itself? Does it have any funky things done to the x? Is it all by itself? Yeah, it's by itself. It's got the 14 thirds, which is my slope, but there's nothing like I'm not squaring it or taking a square root of it or doing some weird thing that we've never seen to it before. So this is definitely linear. Okay, awesome. Okay, let's look at number 2. Again, we want to solve for y. So how do I get the y by itself? So what am I going to do? Yeah, I'm going to, this is x times y, right? So how do you undo times? Yep, we divide. I'm still going to divide. So I get y equals 10 divided by x. Oh, that's my example. I gave that example. So is this linear or not linear? Not linear. And I'm sorry, we do have to go back to question 1 for a minute because I just read my directions. See, got to read my directions. It says find the slope of any non-vertical lines. So that means if it's linear, I do need to find the slope. So what's the slope of this line? 14/3. Yes, good. That's the number with my x, so it's 14/3. Good. So number 2 was not linear. Okay, number 3. Where's my y at? Yeah, it's f of x. Good. So I'm just going to replace that first. So I'm going to say 2x plus 4y equals 8. And now I'm going to solve for y, right? Just like what we've gotten done. Just like what we've been doing. Solve for y. Wow, I can talk really well. So I'm going to subtract 2x, and I get 4y equals negative 2x plus 8. Is my y by itself? No. Okay, what do I need to do to get y by itself? Good, divide by 4. Awesome, you guys. So y is going to equal negative 1/2 x plus 2. So linear, not linear? Linear, good. And what is the slope of my linear line? Ooh, negative 1/2. Beautiful. Okay, so you guys have 3 problems to do. So we're going to go ahead and give you maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes per-ish. So maybe like 5 minutes, okay? So here you go. Let's go. Okay, so what I got for this one was x equals negative 5. Is this linear or non-linear? So what does the graph of this look like? Remember, it's x equals negative 5. Yeah, it's a vertical line. Vertical line. So this is linear. Yes, it's linear. And my slope, I know what it says, but what's my slope for a vertical line? Undefined. Awesome. Okay, great. I don't know why I'm writing uphill really bad today. Let's go ahead and go to number B. Good job, you guys. You're doing great. Okay, so I just went ahead and solved for y because that's what we've been doing this whole time. But what is this? It's that weird x squared, right? I have a exponent. Wow, my brain is not working. As I have an exponent, so is it linear or not? Yeah, good. Not linear. Good job, you guys. Okay, so on to the last one. We have one more to do, and let's go. Okay, so I know this one was a little harder because we had a fraction. It was 2/3. So I'm going to kind of step you through it. So how do we how do we get rid of a fraction? Remember, we multiply everything by the denominator, right? So what I did is I took 3 and I multiplied everything by 3, right? So that gets rid of the 3 here, and then I distribute here, and I get 12x minus 15. Okay, everyone okay so far? So I get 2y equals 12x minus 15. Okay, and then, did I say 2x? I meant 2y. I'm so sorry. And then to get the y by itself, I divide by 2. So I just do what I've just been doing, right? Divide by 2, and you get y equals 6x minus 7.5. So is this linear or not linear? Good, it's linear. And what's my slope? 6. Good job, you guys. Okay, so you have homework in Canvas today, and then we have a checkpoint next class. It will come directly from the homework, so please try and get that done, okay? So we will talk to you. I will see you on Monday. I don't care how bad I am. I will be back on Monday. If I have to be in a wheelchair, I'll be there. I will see you guys on Monday. Be ready for a checkpoint. Thank you for being patient with me this week. Thanks, guys. Bye.